Hey travelers, Mag here, ready to take on the second part of the second day traveling through the remaining prefectures on the western side of Honshu. This morning, we put a check in the box for Tottori and Shimane Prefectures, working our way through Yonago, Yasugi, and into Matsue. Now I'm ready to take on the second half of the day. All I have left ahead of me is Yamaguchi, and after a 3-hour drive to get here, we've made it to Iwakuni. From here, I'm gonna head up this mountain and go check out the castle. There's a peace park that I wanna see as well, and a couple of stages of Adventure Lab and a virtual. After that, we're gonna go ahead and head into Hiroshima to meet up with Inextricable Fate and bring our night to an end. I can't wait to see what the second half of this day is gonna have in store, and I can't wait to share with you. Come on, let's go. Following a 3-hour drive out of Yasugi on the northern end of Shimane Prefecture, I have come clear to the other side of Honshu, here in Yamaguchi Prefecture in the city of Iwakuni. With a population of just slightly over 125,000 people, this coastal city still maintains a small town atmosphere. Like so many other cities in Japan, Iwakuni has a history dating back several hundred years, well into the 14th and 15th centuries. The Mori clan held dominion over the land through the Sengoku period until the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. It was then granted over to the warlord Kikko Park for his pivotal role in keeping the Mori army from participating in the battle. While under the rule of the Kikko clan, Iwakuni Castle was built on the mountaintop. The city of Iwakuni developed around it, seeing its beginnings as a castle town. We've made it to Iwakuni and in enough time to be able to go check out the castle. I learned a lesson from yesterday, so I'm not gonna go find everything I want to first and then go visit the castle later and risk it being closed. We're on the way right now. Of course, it's not like I could have driven the car right to the front doors of the castle, as much fun as that might be, so I still had a little bit of walking ahead of me. I found a parking spot near the famous Kintai-kyo Bridge and took a stroll through Kikko Park. During the Edo period, between the 17th and 19th centuries, the Kikko family lived right here in the space that has since become Kikko Park. The homes nearest the Kikko family were occupied by their retainers, making this a uniquely historical spot in the city. Many of the former samurai residences around the edges of the park have been converted into museums, to include the Kashiwabara Museum, the White Snake Museum, the Chokokan Museum, and the Kikko Museum. In addition to the beautiful fountains and statues available to the public in the park, visitors to any of these museums can expect to see scroll paintings on display, collections of authentic samurai glassware, armor, ceramics, and furniture, and possessions passed down through the Kikko family, including documents, swords, and other weapons. Clearly a spot well worth spending an entire afternoon. At the top of the mountain behind me, we have Iwakuni Castle. I could either take the mountain trail all the way up, or that convenient ropeway right there. Given the amount of time I have, I'm definitely opting for the ropeway this time around. Plus, I know it's gonna offer a great view. The ropeway offers quick and convenient access to Iwakuni Castle from the northwest edge of Kikko Park. For just a few hundred yen, this 3-minute ride will carry you to the 200-meter high summit of Mount Shiroyama. This is definitely the way to travel. We are flying up to Iwakuni Castle. We'll be up there in mere moments compared to well, I don't want to talk how long it'd probably take me to hike up there. The first sight off the ropeway, which cannot be missed, is the Shiroyama mechanical clock, the first stage of a sequential adventure lab, which opens up every 15 minutes to play old children folk songs. This is also the ideal location to take in an aerial view of Iwakuni before setting off on the final leg of the journey up toward Iwakuni Castle. There are essentially two options to reach the castle from the ropeway summit station. There is a narrow footpath that leads around the back of the castle on the east side, or a much wider footpath that comes up to the front door of the castle on the west side. Since the sequential stage adventure lab follows the main trail up, it was a no-brainer as to which way I was going to take. Walking this path also provides a scenic view through the forest down the mountainside, and is definitely the way I would recommend to go. The walkway itself, just to get up to the castle, is worth the journey. I haven't even had a sighting of the castle yet once I got up to the top of the ropeway, but this beautiful walk through the woods, to die for. And if you step off that way, that might be a quite literal expression. Don't do that. The second stop for the Adventure Lab brings us to the Iwakuni Castle well, completed at the same time as the castle. While this was obviously an important source of water, it served other purposes too. Weapons and ammo were stored inside as a contingency, and if the castle were to fall, it would serve as an emergency escape route. Okay, so it's a dry moat, but a moat nevertheless. So even on the technicality, we're gonna give this a check in the box for being a cool castle, for having a moat. As the last visitor of the day, arriving just a few minutes before closing time, I am pleased to see that I'm going to have this entire castle all to myself. That's right, this is now Mag's castle.
Iwakuni Castle is really hidden here on top of the mountain. You're not going to see this thing until you're basically right on top of it. This was my first sighting of it just when I popped around the corner to walk in.
The first lord of Iwakuni, Hiroyama, began construction of Iwakuni Castle in the year 1603. The castle rose from the ground up over the next 5 years, seeing its completion in 1608. The 4 floors of the castle were built using the architectural style of the Momoyama era, which includes some European influences. It was intended both to serve as a symbol of power for the feudal lord and provide protection over the domain as a watchtower. Unfortunately, the castle only lived on for a mere 7 years. In 1615, the recently completed castle was torn down in compliance with a law passed by the Tokugawa feudal government that allowed only 1 castle per province. There one day, and then gone the next.
All right, show of hands out there. Who else thinks I would look awesome in this suit of armor?
Mount Shiroyama, looming over the castle town of Iwakuni, would remain bereft of a castle for the next 3 centuries. It was not until well after World War II that public interest in reconstructing the castle began to grow. In 1957, the Association for Reconstruction of the Iwakuni Castle formed, and, like its original construction, 5 years later, the castle rose from the ground up.
A wish list to visit, but we actually already have visited some of these. Osaka Castle, Himeji Castle yesterday, sort of, and Matsui Castle right here on this little corner, not to mention a few others around here.
Between the end of the 15th century and the beginning of the 17th century, there were thought to be as many as 5,000 castles spread around Japan. Those that managed to survive the country's warring state were ordered deconstructed during the Meiji Restoration of 1868, leaving only 12 of the original castles. However, including the reconstructions, there are around 200 castles to be able to visit in our travels across the country. For the time being though, I am just happy that I was able to make it to Iwakuni Castle before closing time, even if just barely. And I cannot wait for the opportunity to tour through even more of Japan's history like this.
A definite bonus about visiting this castle at the end of the day is that we have the observation area, and actually pretty much the whole castle, all to ourselves. That hasn't happened yet.
All good things must come to an end though, and before I know it, I'm taking my ride back down the ropeway toward Kikko Park. Now it's time to go sign a logbook and count Yamaguchi Prefecture.
1 physical find, and that's all that's needed to count Yamaguchi and my day complete. And look at that. This is a really cool nano container. I love the geocaching logo printed right on it. Nice finale.
For the final stop here in Iwakuni, we drop in to visit the Kitaikyo Bridge, completed in 1673. This famous pedestrian bridge includes 5 wooden arches across the Nishiki River.
We have met up with Inextricable Fate here in Hiroshima, and as you guys know, when I'm on the road geocaching, I have this tendency just to not eat because I get so busy with what I'm doing. So I am.
Now you know how it feels.
Right? He does that all the time. We're walking around Korea for 2 days. All he eats is a couple of rice balls. I told him if we didn't stop for food, I was going to go full cannibal on him. It's that close. So he's going to treat me out to dinner and show me one of the local places. So let's see what dinner has in store for us.
It looks like Inextricable Fate chose well because the smells coming out of this place instantly had my mouth watering.
Inextricable Fate is treating me to okonomiyaki tonight. Okonomiyaki is one of my favorites in Japan. It's normally called a Japanese pancake, and they use noodles as a base and they cook them together with meats and other things on it. Now Hiroshima has its own style to it, so this is going to be different okonomiyaki than I've ever had. While we wait for our food though, this is a good chance to be able to talk to Inextricable Fate and find out about his experiences here in Hiroshima. How long have you been staying here?
Aside from the 2 weeks I had to go home for my visa, I've been here a little over 4 months.
4 months in Japan already. Is your Japanese pretty good?
So.
It's better than mine, I assure you. We've already decided this, we've looked through it. His is definitely better. And the group that you work with, they all speak Japanese only, English?
One of the older guys speaks a little bit of English, which is quite helpful, but mostly Japanese.
So you're just kind of cast off the ship and you're swimming and you have to figure it out.
I gotta figure out what I want to say and what they might mean about what they're saying.
So what is it you're doing here in Japan?
The company is actually construction and architecture, so they design and build both commercial and residential. I've been doing a lot of work renovating apartments, changing out Japanese style for Western style rooms, all kinds of different things.
And
I've seen some stuff.
Inextricable Fate is a master handyman. When I did all the work on my house in Jacksonville, except for my roof, I never ever hired professional contractors. I hired Inextricable Fate. And he would come to my house and we would work together, and I learned a lot of stuff about building houses and fixing things from him. And he is a master at his craft. So that company, they dug straight down, hit a gold mine with him. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Apparently I work a lot faster than Japanese do.
Which is saying something, because the Japanese work ethic it's phenomenal, right?
I end up with nothing to do sometimes, so I have to find something to do. If they give me a week to do something I can do in 3 days, what do I do now?
And you're not gonna just like drag your feet on it, you're gonna get the job
I can't
done.
work any slower. So I'm already working too slow. I can't do any slower.
And that's just a product of his skill. And that's something to remember when you're hiring a contractor in general to do work, whether it's construction work, plumbing, or some other kind of service. You're not just paying for them to do the work. You're paying for their education, their skill, and their expertise. The years and years of training that they've had to lead up to that moment where they can come and you've got plumbing water leaking out and spraying all over your house, and within 20 minutes they've got the problem fixed, a new pipe on and fitted.
20 minutes.
Well, when we do a job, a 20-minute job always turns into an hour.
So 3 days to do your bathroom.
What he would tell me is a 20-minute job and would take an hour. By myself would take 2 or 3 days. So again, you're paying for the difference of an hour versus days in some labor jobs. But yeah, the bathroom is a lot of work. You're talking about the tile in the shower?
And I'm talking about removing the whole floor. Because you waited 2 years to get it fixed.
The floor in my bathroom had the toilet, the wax ring on the toilet. By the way, if you see any water coming out from beneath your toilet, any kind of signs of liquid intrusion, check it out immediately.
Over 2 years, that watermark kept expanding and expanding, and finally the floor was ready to give out.
We had to cut the floor and the subfloor out and replace it, and then put the toilet back on a new wax ring. What would have been a pretty cheap solution with a new wax ring had we treated it initially, turned out to be a job that would have cost me many thousands of dollars, but cost me significantly less having my friend, and an expert at that. I knew the work on my house was good. In fact, when my realtor came in and we did the inspection, she told me that my house was the most prepared house she'd ever seen, and with the smallest amount of repair items to fix, and most of those were because my dog, Ai-chan, had dementia. Like the screen, they wanted all the screens fixed, and the only reason they hadn't done that is because Ai-chan, we call her, when she goes into her demented episodes, she attacked all the screens, so we've just left them the way they were.
I did a few house inspections before, so I knew kind of what they were looking for.
And our dinner is almost here. It's so exciting to get to hang out with Inextricable Fate, and I know we're gonna have more adventures with him since he too is staying right here in Japan
Official
with us. It's official, visa in hand, baby, yeah! First up on our menu tonight is an extra. This place actually specializes in okonomiyaki, so they don't have much else on the menu, but karaage, Japanese fried chicken. Now this looks pretty good. It looks a little crispier than what we had in a lot of places. So let's give this a try. See what's going on. Go on. I'm doing this American style. By the way, this is hot. Very good karaage. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. What do you think?
So far, so good.
Not bad. Main course still coming. Okonomiyaki. And this place has a choice of serving it on a regular plate or a hot plate, which means, yep, that thing is burning hot. So certainly not gonna touch it again. So I'm already noticing right off the bat that the noodles, if you see these noodles here, I'm gonna zoom in there. These noodles are basically udon noodles and used in his okonomiyaki. Those are much thicker noodles than I've ever seen in okonomiyaki before. These noodles, however, in my plate right here, these are yakisoba noodles. These are much more commonly what you see in okonomiyaki. This is just a treat in Japan. If you come here, of course, I always recommend ramen. You gotta do ramen. Yakiniku's pretty high on the menu too. We've pigged out there. But coming up third on that list, I'd say okonomiyaki is a must-do there.
And if you want the best yakiniku, you go to Kobe. It's a little more expensive, but it's really good.
Just make sure to keep your passport tightly in your pocket when you do.
That was me, got
That hot plate really does keep it warm. That's not bad. See those noodles right there? That's the base of the okonomiyaki. So the ones I'm used to having are flatter, actually much more like a pancake. This one's actually more like a pie in the way the noodles are built up like a mountain on the okonomiyaki. So this is like twice as much okonomiyaki as I would normally get anywhere else. This is a lot. For the price we paid, this is a phenomenal dish. Good choice, babe. So I've been eating this whole time while we've been chatting, but look at Inextricable Fate with those thick noodles there. He is double timing what I'm doing on my food. I got a long way to go. He's gonna be sitting here watching me eat this okonomiyaki for the next half a year before I finish.
Should eat all this teriyaki.
But this has been a fantastic meal. I gotta say, Inextricable Fate, thank you so much for treating me out to dinner tonight. This has been a fantastic experience, and I hope you guys enjoyed joining us for an okonomiyaki dinner. All right, that wraps up one heck of a day. Moving through 3 prefectures, beginning at sunrise and ending at sunset with that sun just dropping below the mountains behind us. We began our day in Tottori Prefecture, found a few caches while walking around the city, climbed to the top of the mountains to see the ruins there, and then immediately crossed over the prefecture line where we got to visit Yasugi, do the Cedo event, and meet a couple other geocachers who preferred to remain off camera. After that, we took a 3-hour drive all the way into Iwakuni to get to our last prefecture of Yamaguchi. The timing was phenomenal today. Unlike yesterday, I was able to take the ropeway up to the top of the mountain, get to see the castle from there, come back down, find a geocache, find a virtual, and arrive to meet Inextricable Fate 1 minute early. I'm holding the Japanese tradition here. Very excited to hang out with my friends tonight, and very excited to be able to share the next upcoming adventures with you. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.